I'm doing what you should be doing, boom, with your sharing. I'm sharing. Dun, 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 boom, boom. Dun, do, 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 do. Boom, dun, boom, dun, boom, do, 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 do. Yeah, it's taking me extra long. But it is shared now. Hello, 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 everybody. I hope that you are doing amazing. I hope that this Monday has been a little bit less of a Monday, and it just actually has been a great day. That is my hope for you. If you're not watching this on Monday, I hope whatever day of the week it is has been a great day for you, because days are what we make them. Oh, hello, somebody. Days are what we make them. So it really doesn't matter what day of the week it is. It's all about, how we think about the day. How did we approach this day? Did we doom it before it started? But I just hope you're having a good day. Who am I? I am Dr. Renita L. Webb. I am so excited to be here with you. I'm an educational leadership strategist. And what that really means is that I really love working with aspiring and growing leaders to become more authentic in their leadership, to empower their fellowship, and at the end of the day, have a greater impact on the entire world. Yes, honey, the entire world, because the world needs amazing leaders. We've seen a lot of leaders, but there are some amazing ones out there, and we should be those leaders. I am also a wife and mother of four children. I birthed two of them, and the other two I love real good. I've had them for a long time, and they're quite amazing. They're mine. Yeah. They may not want to claim me all the time, but they belong to me, and I love them. They are my children. So I have four children. But that journey of becoming a wife, becoming an Insta mom, becoming a birth mom, it led to me writing this book called Stepmom: Trials, Tribulations, and Triumphs, editions 1 and 2. Awesome book, very candid. It is the real. You should read it. If you haven't already, check it out. I am also the authoress of While You're Sleeping, the perfect children of all ages book. And I am an educator. I have served grades kindergarten through college. I am the founder of The Refining Life, a 501c3 nonprofit organization whose mission is to provide you with experiences to have your mindset shifted so that you can lead a more positive and productive life. Mark your calendars for September 23rd and 24th now. Just mark it. We'll talk about it another time. I am also a coach. I am a mentor. I am a mentee. And I am the editor-in-chief of Lead Like You magazine. We have three issues out now, one from January, February, and March, but it doesn't matter what month you read them. It's great content either way. Go to leadlikeyoumag.com and you can get all the digital copies. And guess what? You can get January and February in print right now. And the third issue is coming soon, but jump on it, get all the things, enjoy all the things. And I'm so glad you are here with me tonight, because we are getting ready to tackle some topics this month about difference. So if you will notice, I'm not getting all hype and crunk because I'm bringing somebody else in. This month you have me. You might get some other people, but tonight you got me. We're going to talk about a topic that I feel like in leadership we don't talk about enough, because there's a lot of assumption around this. And for those of you all who have never ever seen Leadership Live before, welcome. Leadership Live is a sharing of journeys. We're getting ready to talk about a journey in leadership, some journeys in leadership that lead to lessons learned. I have learned so much as a leader from the moment I actually realized I was a leader to now. Honey, the things that I have learned. But I am so excited to share those lessons with you, because one of the best ways to learn is from other people's stuff. Yeah, it is best to learn from other people's stuff, right? Right. Okay. So learn the lessons from the pitfalls that I had so that you don't do those. Hello, somebody. But tonight we're talking about dealing with disability. Dealing with disability. Disabilities are differences. There are some people who have some differences that are out there, and we may or may not even know it. There are some people who have some differences that we can see straight on. There's some people who have some differences that you would never even know if they didn't tell you or you didn't find out some way. But it's important as leaders that we acknowledge those differences and that we deal with them. And tonight we're going to talk about disabilities, right? Can we talk about disabilities? Okay, so I'm going to read to you facts because, we want to deal with facts, not fiction. And even though my truth may be my fact, it may not be somebody else's fact, but this is a fact. This is from the CDC, okay? From the CDC. It says more than 21 million, not 100, not 1,000. More than 21 million U.S. adults ages 18 to 64 years of age have a disability. 24 million. Okay. 21 million. I'll say these adults with serious difficulty walking or climbing steps, hearing, seeing, concentrating, remembering, or making decisions. 21 million adults have some sort of disability. That is a high number. It's not like 5 people. It's not like you can hit or miss a disability. You are running into somebody with a disability likely every day. Okay? Some common disabilities. We have vision impairment, deaf or hard of hearing. And this is real hard of hearing, not your kids ignoring you and acting like you didn't say anything, or your students ignoring you, acting like you didn't say anything, or your parishioners or the people who you work with acting like you didn't say anything. None of these people who are really hard of hearing. Mental health conditions, intellectual disabilities, acquired brain injury, autism spectrum disorder, and physical disabilities. Those are just some common disabilities. There are like a bazillion and 60 more, right? A bazillion and 60 more. And disabilities are present around us, and they may be things that we cannot see. They may be things that we cannot see. But guess what? Whether you can see it or not, you have got to deal with disabilities. As a leader, this is about to be so simple, but not. As a leader, you got to deal with people and everything that people are. You've got to deal with people and everything that people are, and everything that people bring to the table, every experience that people bring to the table, and just the essence, not even the people doing, but the people being, the human being, not the human doing, the human being. You have got to deal with who they are in their being, who they are, period. And in leadership, sometimes we think so much about human doing that we missed human being. And in missing part of that, we also miss the nuances and the uniqueness of individuals. Disabilities are all around us, and we may or may not see it. But it has everything to do with the uniqueness of each individual person and what they bring to your fellowship. Or they may even be your leaders. There are some of us out here dealing with disability, not because they're in our fellowship or because it is in our fellowship, but because we are the disabled and we don't want to say anything, because who wants to follow a leader who is not all the way whole? But let's take that. Disabilities are not lacking of wholeness. They are different abilities. Disabilities are not lacking of wholeness. They are different abilities. It's like having a superpower. It's a different ability. And if we consistently fall into the stereotype that people with disabilities are less able, then we're going to find ourselves missing the boat and missing some very valuable information, experience, people. We're going to miss it simply because we were too ignorant to recognize that disability is not lacking. It's a different ability. So I think about, I have to go education because I was an educator in the classroom and in the schoolhouse. I think about the number of students who I found out, because you find out, you don't know the student before you know the student. You find out whether it's in their paperwork or they arrive at the school, and you find out these students have a disability. There's something that they have, some type of impairment from doing things that seem normal, or the normal way to do things. But the fact being that humans are humans and that every single person is unique and different. I don't know how normal is normal, just like how common is common. Just like the idea of common sense is only common to those who have it. It's not very common. Right. So these people with these different abilities, you get to know on paper a lot of times before you meet them. But I fell into a situation once where I found out a student had a different ability or a disability because of something I said. Had not seen his paperwork. I was still in this unique space of being a fresh, untrained, like not fully trained, but had this experience as a teacher and jumping into situations where I jumped into a school year where it wasn't at the top of the year. And so I didn't have the same time to get to know my students' papers as other teachers before the school year started. And so I got in a situation, and I am a sweetie, honey, baby, cutie person. Oh, like, hey, sweetie. Oh, baby, you look at my baby. You better do it, cuteness. I am that person. I've been that person for a long time. And I had a student in my classroom who was on the autism spectrum. And that student assumed that I was calling them a baby. And while we had a great time in class, we yucked it up. This student was probably more witty than I was, but he got all my jokes. It was great. And I found out later from his parents in a parent-teacher conference that, one, I was dead wrong. I didn't know I was wrong, but I was wrong. They said, did you not see his paperwork? I was like, what are you talking about? No, I haven't seen his paperwork. Oh, he has a plan in place because he has this disorder. And I found out, and I had to adjust. That is a crappy way to find out that somebody has a disability because you simply didn't do your homework. But I didn't even know there was that much homework to do. Like, I didn't, different place, different time. As a leader, I learned the lesson from that. And so I always encourage my teachers. And even after that, I made sure that I studied my students' paperwork before they came into class because I got caught up. It was horrible. But when you don't start on day one, that's another lesson. When you don't get to start at the beginning, sometimes you miss things or preparedness that you should have. I see Monica Jackson Buxton on here, and she talks about stepping into your prepared place, but it's hard to step into your prepared place when you're not prepared for it. And in that moment, I wasn't prepared for it. No matter what kind of teaching training I had, no matter what experiences I had as an educator, it didn't matter because that one piece was missing. I wasn't prepared for that moment. So I say all that to say, we're dealing with people every day, and every single person has a different ability. And because of those different abilities, we need to know that. And if some of those people have disabilities, we really need to know that. But here's the problem. Some disabilities you can see. If somebody has a physical impairment, most times you can see it. They'll, require special equipment. They'll have a different look. They'll have a different walk. Sometimes they'll have a different talk. They have a physical impairment that you can see, hear, feel, whatever. But then there are some people who just don't. They have disabilities that you could never see. So here's the deal. When you're dealing with someone or in a situation that you can't see their disability or their different ability, here's the kicker. The only way you will know is either one, there will be paperwork. You read the paperwork, you prepare yourself for the situation. Or two, you have to find out some way, somehow. Like either they have to tell you or somebody else will tell you. You want them to tell you. You want to hear it from the source. Because if there is no paper trail, you've got to really know what it is and how to deal with it. You've got to know what it is and how to deal with it. Now, you can find out a person has, I don't know, let's go autism. You can find out somebody who you are leading or you're working with or you are, collaborating with has autism. And you can go to the local internet. You can go to the local internet and you can look up autism. But like I read here earlier, there's autism spectrum disorder. That means there's levels to this. There's a spectrum of this disability, this disorder. There's a spectrum. So the only way to truly know how to deal with the disability is to know where it is on the spectrum. And even then, there is no cookie cutter way to deal with the disability. There is no cookie cutter way to deal with the disability, right? Right. Because people are people. And every single person is individual and they are unique and they've had their own experiences. So 14 people can have the exact same disability and you have to deal with it in a different way. But you will only know that if you do the following. 1, build some sort of relationship with that person. Because at this point, we're talking about leading. So that means, no, you could be leading little people. Like I lead a little person. At least I feel like I should be leading her, but she's 4. And sometimes I feel like she leads me. She's a baby boss, but I lead little people. And so they can't always tell me exactly what they need. But at 4, she tells me a lot of what she needs. She tells me how she likes to be treated. She tells me what she wants. Sometimes she knows what she needs and sometimes she doesn't. They're learning emotions and things. Sometimes they don't. But when you're dealing with people as they're getting older, as they're in your fellowship, as you're dealing with disability, sometimes with adults, because that's where some of this falls. We get into issue when we're dealing with disabilities in adults, disabilities that we can't always see. You've got to build some sort of relationship with this person, because how you deal with their disability and how they deal with their disability is going to be totally different than the way somebody else with the same diagnosed disability deals with it or desires to be dealt with. Because let's be real, you're not only dealing with the disability, you're dealing with the person. Let me repeat that. You're not only dealing with the disability, you're dealing with the person. You cannot separate the two. The disability is a part of that person's experience. It is who they are, even though they shouldn't be defined by it, is a part of their experience. And that's valuable. Disability doesn't mean disvalued, unworthy. They're completely worthy and they're completely whole as who they are. They have whole experiences. They are whole people who have these different abilities. And you've got to build relationship. Without having a relationship with a person, there's no way you can learn how to deal with them, period. Whether they have a documented disability or not. You still got to deal with the person. And in this case, you got to deal with the person and disability. Or the different ability, right? So in dealing with that, you've got to have conversation. If you can have conversation, or have conversation however you can have conversation. If it's a person who does not speak well and they type and they understand language and you type and you write it down and do whatever you need to do. If it's a person who is hard of hearing, then you got to figure out ways to communicate. Communication is key in relationship building. This is the only way you'll learn how to deal with a disability. This is the only way you'll learn how to deal with a person. You've got to build some type of relationship. And in that relationship building, the second thing you have to do is build trust. Trust. Dealing with a disability as the person who has it is sometimes difficult because you have a different ability that not everybody understands. Sometimes gets to a point where people have shame over their different ability. Because people have shamed them, because it has been labeled and put out there some different kind of way that is not always in a favorable light. So telling people that you have this disability or this different ability is sometimes not even something that you want to do, because people don't always know how to deal with disability. And when you're a leader and you don't know how to deal with disability, your fellowship is going to suffer. Your leadership will be lacking in some way because you don't know how to deal with a disability. Because you've not built the relationship, because you've not done your research, because you have not built trust. Your leadership of that person will be difficult because you can't deal with a disability because you've not done the work. Like in any relationship, it takes work. A person with a different ability, you've got to work with that. You've got to do that. But I'm going to say this too. Sometimes we try to avoid the disability. I'm just not going to hire people who XYZ. I'm not going to be around who XYZ. I'm going to find a way to keep that out of my organization. What? What are you doing? What is discriminatory? Let's start there. 2, you're missing out. You are missing out. People with disabilities are people. They live lives just like we do. And if you don't take the time to get to know them, then Houston, we got a problem. Because let's be real. Some people think about disability. They think about people in wheelchairs. They think about people with trachs. They think about people who can't speak or hear. They think about that. But let's be real. OCD is a disability. And I know a bunch of OCD teachers. They're great. They're amazing. They do awesome things. But those people have OCD in like some of the worst ways. You can't pick and choose which disabilities are worthy and which ones are not. You can't. It's just a different ability, right? Right. PTSD is a disability. Now, a lot of times when we think PTSD, we think military veterans. I live with PTSD every day. Not me diagnosed. But I have a spouse who has PTSD. He's military. He has war-related PTSD. And it's a thing. I don't love him any less. He brings a lot of great things to the table. But you still have to deal with the different ability, right? It's certain things we can't do because it will aggravate his disability and it could go left real quick. Not left like I'm scared for my life, but like sometimes you're like, oh, dude, you're different. But it's because he's dealing with a different ability. And sometimes your different ability has differences in how you deal, right? So Sydney says, as someone who works for people with disabilities, we are constantly reminded to treat those with disabilities the same way we would for those who don't have disability. Right! They're people. It literally is an experience. Literally, it's an experience, right? It's their life experience and things that they have to deal with just as who they are because they're human being. But so I was saying that the PTSD thing, but let's be real. There's some people who have PTSD just from childhood trauma. They've been cussed out since they were born. And so they deal with people differently. That's post-traumatic stress disorder. Whether or not they get it diagnosed, some people don't even get their disabilities diagnosed because of the stigma that is attached to having a disability. Or they will never acknowledge it or never deal with it, which is a whole different thing in dealing with disability. If there is something that needs to be treated, then get it treated. If it means that you go to therapy, it means you go to therapy. If it means that you get physical therapy, you get physical therapy. If it means you go to a speech pathologist, go to a speech pathologist. Get the help that you need so that you can function in the way you desire to function. So that your dreams, because people with disability still have hopes and dreams, if they're allowed to still have hope. My husband preached on Sunday about love, but he preached from Corinthians 13. Faith, hope, love, these three, but the greatest of these is love. But faith and hope, and what he talked about was the fact that if you do not have faith, you cannot have hope. If you do not have hope, you cannot have faith. People with different abilities or disabilities, as long as they're still allowed to be hopeful and people don't stamp out everything they could or would be or try to ignore their vision or anything that's been placed on their heart and the things that they've been called here to do, because anybody who is here is called here for a purpose, like you're supposed to be here, like you're here to do a thing or be a thing or to affect people in whatever way. Having a disability does not change that. These different abilities do not change that. Whether it's you, the leader, or somebody in your fellowship, please do not deny the amazingness of each individual just because of their human being and the things that they could be bringing to the table that you may need. It would amaze you to, one, find out really the disabilities that are around you every day. But then also, for those who you counted out, to know what they could have been for you, what they could have taught you, what they could have infused into your life, the changes they could have made for you, the path that they would have maybe set you on different, the word of wisdom that you may have received, that you ignored simply because you found out they had a disability. Why do you think some people never say it? Some people never ever speak to their disability because of you. Because of you. because of the way you've already painted it, or the way they've already watched you treat somebody else whose disability you can see. Don't be that. Don't be that. Don't ignore awesome because of ignorance. Sometimes we literally are ignorant to, like I was ignorant to my student's disability and what that really meant for me to say the word baby to them. Literally just being me. But it's something I could have avoided had I known, or explained away. I could have avoided his tears, his pain, his anguish, his parents' fears and tears and anguish. It wasn't that I wasn't a great teacher. It was that I was not prepared or knowledgeable. I was ignorant. But once I knew. And once I knew, I could tell him, and he was totally cool with it. But you got to know. You got to do your research. You got to build those relationships so that you can have those conversations. As adults, sometimes it's harder because you just don't get that paperwork. Like, nobody's required to report it if you can't see it. Could it get them more help that they need? Of course. But they're not required to report it. And once again, sometimes we make it difficult for people to speak about their truth and their experience because we're not always ready to lead in difference, or lead with difference, or deal with people, or deal with disability. But the thing is, we have to speak to it. We have to acknowledge it. We got to deal with it in order for us to be the leaders that we could be. In order to be the leaders that we could be. There is greatness in many a leader. Some people just, it's not for them. But whether you're leading yourself, an organization, a ministry, in a schoolhouse, your family, wherever you're leading, you have opportunity to be amazing. You do. But something that can hinder you is if you can't deal with disability or different abilities. If you never want to acknowledge it. Some of us right now, our kids are not getting the help they need because we don't want the stigma of the disability. We don't even want to know. There's some people who can't deal with people in their jobs or in their organization because they don't even want to know. One, because they don't trust themselves. You don't trust yourself to be able to deal with it. Let me peep you to some game. If it was put in your path, there's already some way, somehow, a trust that you can deal with it. If it's put in your path, it's already a trust that you can deal with it. Let's just let that be known. It wouldn't be there in your life if it's a part of your experience, if there's no way you could deal with it. If you don't deal with it, well, it's a choice. It's a choice. Knowledge is power. Really getting to know and understand different abilities or disabilities, people who have them, different people who live with them, whether they have it or not. Understanding those experiences really can enhance your life, but also can enhance the way you deal with people. But you got to get in there and you've got to deal with it. You've just got to deal with it. Different abilities are okay. Different abilities are dang near magic. Because the way some people, like I have a very, very close person to me who is blind, but he can play like, I don't know how many instruments. He sings. he plays for me. He is amazing. And having the ability to function in magnificent, I can't say magnificent. There we go. To be able to function in that way with one impairment, but it's these amazing geniuses on the other side of that. And not only is he blind, he's autistic. And still functioning at genius level and where he functions. And the ignorant people who miss out on that is their fault. Sorry for you. You're missing this magic. You're missing this magic simply because you refuse to deal with disability. It's scary to some people, but so is every experience that you have to others. None of us are perfect, which is great because it makes us all unique. But we got to deal so that we can be amazing, so that we can lead in the way we're called to do so, and so that we can empower our fellowship and make an amazing impact on the world while encouraging people to be their authentic selves and not have to hide any of that. It makes us pretty awesome leaders. But we got to deal. We've got to deal. So that's my little tidbit for tonight. We'll be back here for the rest of the month talking about leading in difference. And we're going to tackle some things that some people don't want to talk about. And that's okay. We're going to talk about it anyway. All right? So know that I love you very dearly, very dearly. And it is my hope that this week, maybe you get to know about a disability that you've never known about before. Just do a little research or ask some people some questions. And don't be afraid to get the answers and deal with the relationships and build even more trust because of your openness. That's the way I encourage you to keep your leadership all the way live this week. See you next week. Bye.